This is Confessions of a Black Sheep, where we embrace being unapologetically different, uncover the power that comes with it, and share our personal wisdom through experience, vulnerability, and honesty.
I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Preetam, who is a life architect with a knack for turning chaos into clarity, your vision into your reality.
And of course, this is Simran, a Reiki master, a yoga teacher, and an all-around guide for women stepping into their power.
So today we're talking about your intuition and why you rejecting your intuition is killing you. Which sounds intense, because it is intense. Yeah. It's super intense.
It's huge.
It's one of the things Preet and I talked about being it's not the defining moment, but one of the most important things that has helped us along our path is our intuitive voice and the connection we have with our intuition. So first, we would love to define what intuition is. So we're all on the same page. Preetam, would you like to do that for us?
I would love to define intuition, and I will. I'll get there in a second. But first, can you tell me how you are based on an answer with a metaphor, please?
How I am? I feel like a lily pad.
Okay. We've moved on from last week.
Yeah.
You were an otter. Was it an otter?
No, I think I was dead flowers on a casket.
Dead flowers on you became an otter later in the episode.
Yeah. So now I feel like a lily pad.
Lily pad.
Yeah, and the reason is because I don't know if you guys know, but like the stem of a lily pad is so strong. Yeah. And it goes pretty deep into the swamp water. And I feel like I have really solid roots. I feel strong. I do feel like I'm in a bit of a swamp water situation.
Nice.
But
is that this apartment?
No.
Okay.
I am in Preet's apartment right now. Yeah. We're on the same couch for the first time. And the top of my lily pad is facing the sun, so it feels good. Okay. And I maybe have some frogs jumping on me.
So you're tanning. There's some wildlife. Yeah. The water's full of nutrients.
It sure is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've moved from dead flowers on a casket to
a beautiful blooming lily pad.
There's some abundance there.
There's a lot of abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rebirth.
Exactly.
In a week.
We transform quick.
I think this is huge. There's also a little bit of a story that I don't think many of the listeners know. However, there was a time in your life where, have you ever had a pet?
No.
No, you never had a pet?
I don't do indoor animals. I have had chickens. Outdoor. Looking at him like that.
I haven't had a pet, but I've had chickens. So you have had a pet.
Okay, I guess. I don't really... Are chickens pets?
I think like any animal that you're looking after, right?
Okay.
Did you treat them equally to how you treat the human?
I treated them... I think so.
Yeah? What was the name of your chickens?
We didn't name them.
They had no names, so they weren't treated the same?
No, they were just... Like, who names the chicken?
Well, I think if they're your pets, then you name them.
I don't think they were my pets then.
Were they purely for like egg?
No, I mean I liked them.
Okay.
But they weren't very friendly. Like, I was attacked by the hen.
Oh, you were attacked?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was taking her chick. I wanted to hold it. A new baby chick.
Yeah.
And I got
took
attacked.
the baby and you got attacked.
Yeah, I was just trying to hold her.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's fine.
Did you learn a lesson?
I learned my lesson.
To not take someone else's baby.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. How about you tell me how you're doing, only in metaphors?
How am I doing only in metaphors? I feel like it's going to sound dark, but it's not dark at all.
Okay.
I feel like the bat that is leaving the dark cave. Ooh. So it's been in like darkness for a long time, sleeping, hibernating.
Okay. He's ready to emerge.
As like Batman was born in the darkness.
I was going to say, are you Batman?
Yeah, Batman was born in the darkness. And in that darkness, a lot of things were happening. And this feels like the moment that the wings are about to open and there's an emerging happening. However, if you ask me in this moment, how are you? I'm still in the cave. Okay. But the wings have now spanned. I'm no longer hanging upside down. And this particular cave is untouched and the inside is all made from natural crystals. And there's a little bit of dampness, there's water running through, there's a lot of greenery growing, but there's no human life. This life is purely for the bat. Okay. And everything that's gone on down there was for the bats.
Is this your crystal cave?
This is this isn't the crystal cave. Okay. However, the idea of this particular place, so this is the first time I've ever decorated somewhere, which is a super interesting feeling to do. And the idea I've wanted to create is the kind of peace that you feel where, and it's literally the topic that we're getting onto, but the type of peace that you feel where you can lock in with your intuition or you can lock into your inner voices and there's zero distractions. So within 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you've got your answer rather than waiting. I need an answer in like God, tell me an answer.
Yeah.
Or I really want to understand what this means to me. And I need to spend months leading into it or weeks leading into it. Yeah. This is a few minutes. That's the idea of that.
Yeah.
Do you feel that when you're in here?
Do I feel that?
Do you feel it when you're in here?
Do I feel what exactly?
That it's easy to lock in with your center, your calmness, your peace, and be able to listen to your own intuition.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
Amazing. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Maybe I should become an interior designer as well.
Maybe.
But
maybe you could, I feel like you could be an energetic interior designer.
Yeah, fair. And also style-wise, you're stealing my clothes already.
Yeah.
And you've taken some.
Okay, wait, hold on.
You've taken something back.
Okay, yeah, I'm wearing fleece pants right now, but that's because I washed clothes and I only brought carry-on. And
I understand
they were drying.
However, is there not a jumper that was taken out of this apartment within the first time you met me and it hasn't come back?
For comfort.
It hasn't come back.
Because it's cold.
It hasn't come back.
I left it in a bag in a car.
So it hasn't come back?
Not yet, but it will. Okay. It'll come back. But, okay, so the things you're describing with the intuition and your processes, let's talk a little bit more about that. But can we first define intuition so we can get into the depths of how you're even creating this process for yourself right now?
Yes, of course. For me, there's two very, very clear layers to intuition. The first one is the role that you are brought into this world for. And other people define that as your purpose. And for many, many years, I ignored that or didn't listen to that inner voice. So if we're looking at it from a very superficial layer, it's the voice inside of you. How well can you listen to the voice inside of you? And the voice that brings you complete peace. So when you're in complete peace, and I would say actually that's probably the hardest thing to get to first, is that space where you're calm, where you're relaxed, where you're still. And I believe that the intuition is that inner knowing and that I'm taking the right step to move forward. Creating trust around that, I believe, is massive. What do you think intuition is? What does intuition mean to you?
I mean, the simplest way to describe intuition is it's your inner voice. Now, when we talk about that, where's this voice coming from? Who is speaking? And also who is listening? So I find intuition to be a combination of the wisdom that we've collected through our ancestry, but also through our spirit's journey. And this becomes intelligence in our body, this all-knowing intelligence. And when we're able to connect with this intelligence and hear a clear directive, whether you're hearing something, whether you're seeing something, whether you simply are having a knowing of something, this is the intuition. And I find that the voice of my intuition is actually separate from the voice of God, which is interesting. And oftentimes they say the same thing. Well, all the time they say the same thing. But it's a very different voice. What about for you? Do you find a distinction?
Very interesting that you say that. For me, when it comes to your intuition, there's a huge difference between listening to God, listening to the universe, listening to the spiritual guides, the ancestors, and your internal voice. However, the biggest thing for me is that I can feel that they all come from the same source. So it's the fact that I know that they're all interconnected. So when you spend that time in calmness, in peace, and you can hear them all, you ask God a direct question, or you ask your spiritual guides a direct question, or you ask the energetic force a direct question, you get an answer. However, that answer is also inside of you. You are part of that collective energy. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about your intuition, is recognizing to trust all of that. Trust that inner talk, and trust God, and trust the universe, and trust energy. And it's hilarious because on my own journey, there was a period where I completely rejected God. And during that period of life, that was one of the hardest times of my life. Now, God might be the universe. God might be that feeling of energy around you. God might be what you connect yourself to get your answers, your guidance. However, allowing yourself to trust that, allowing yourself to believe in it from the inside of you is huge.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a period in your life where you didn't follow that?
Yeah, there's a period in my life when I didn't believe in God. there was a period in my life where I would take advice from other people more than I trusted myself. Even though I always had the voice, I was closed off to hearing it. I neglected it, rejected it, how most people are now. And I would call people up, text people every time I needed to make a decision because I could never do that for myself. So that actually shifted, of course, and we'll talk about this more. But I actually want to ask you, do you believe that everyone has an inner voice? Because that would require everyone to have a spirit. That would require everyone's spirit to speak very clearly to them. Do you believe that everyone has that?
I deeply believe that everyone has an inner voice that will guide them to their own purpose if they listen to it.
Yeah.
However, in this world, especially in our Western world, we've been taught so much to not listen to that, to choose that inner conflict is really uncomfortable. And if you've got that inner conflict, the amount of people that in the West are told that they have mental health issues, or that they are reliving their traumas, or that they're being really unfair on their partners when they're not listening to their own inner voice. They're not even following their own inner guidance, their own inner wisdom that they've been given. Mm-hmm. And then they're ending up in situations of conflict. They're ending up in situations where they can't make decisions for their own good. Instead, they're following other people's path. We look for guidance from other people rather than trusting our own inner intuition. And actually, we're taught that from school. From day one, we're taught that you need other people's information, you need other people's guidance to ever make it in this world. Now, the stories are countless over and over again, and I don't always want to use like successful business people, but the amount of successful business people right at the top that didn't even make it through school and ended up creating huge change in their life or huge change in the world, the numbers are like crazy. And I think that's teaching people a lot, like now in this world. One of the biggest lessons is people need to listen to their inner voice or understand what that actually means rather than ignoring it for such a long time. Yeah. Because the longer you ignore it, the harder it is to peel back the layers to then start listening to it. So I think that's one of the most important things, and we can define that from listening to your inner voice and listening to your purpose, and that's in the physical world. However, from an energetic perspective, what do you think how does your intuition lead you to your highest potential?
How does the intuition lead you to your highest potential? So first I want to explain energetic pathways, because this can be it's a concept that's kind of up in the air, and it kind of ties to what you're saying with there's no proof of it necessarily, which is part of what we're talking about with trusting ourselves rather than trusting data, trusting what somebody says, what someone puts in a research paper. Well, that's important, and that's a big part of how science and everything we're learning in this world develops. It's so important to be able to trust what we cannot see or hear. There's so many worlds that we're closed off to when we're closed off to the things that we can't see and hear. So I'm about to explain energetic pathways and how this works. So the way that I've always described this to my clients is life is kind of like a choose your own adventure book. Which if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like there's books where if you look at the bottom of the page, there's a directive that says turn to page 53 to go to a museum, turn to page 12 to go to the bathroom. And we can choose where we want
to. The bathroom?
It's just an example.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's not an adventure. If it is.
Maybe it's an Alice in the Wonderland type, okay. And the bathroom is the key. Okay, so we can choose which pathway we would like to take, and not every single pathway will lead you to your highest potential. And we can see this in how most people live their lives. Okay. Is just because the potential is there, and I'm going to explain potential energy quickly. Potential energy it's feminine energy. If you can imagine a horse race, and the horse right before the gate opens up, that is potential energy. When that horse is like revved up, it has all of the energy, its potential is full to run forwards and exude as much of the force and energy as possible. So potential energy is like this vibrating force in our body. The potential energy of your life, of your reality, is the vibrating force of what is possible. And so when we talk about your highest potential, it's quite literally the pathway that holds the energy of you living your highest life. And when we say highest, we mean most fulfilling, most filled with love, most filled with abundance, most filled with you completing your mission in life, you following your soul purpose, you learning the lessons you came to this lifetime to learn. And so how do we actually connect with that particular pathway? You're going to have to make that choice repeatedly. over and over again, you'll be coming across the option to choose A or B, red or blue. And if you know my pathway is red, I have to choose red every single time. If I choose blue once and I take a little detour, that's okay. You can still come back to red. We can always, we have the freedom of choice. And I know this is a little controversial because some people are like, oh no, we don't have free will. Everything is predetermined. I think pathways are predetermined, but we have the choice of which predetermined reality we can pick. So a tool that helped me a lot when I started to follow my intuition and very intentionally choose my highest pathway, I would imagine a string of light in front of me. And this is when life was really dark and depressing. This is when I was pretty suicidal, when I was making the worst choices. I was addicted to marijuana and I used to drink to cope with my feelings. In this moment of when I actually realized and saw the light path and my highest potential for the first time, I was 20 years old, working at a Girl Scouts camp as a camp counselor, and this was a camp, so our bathrooms were in the middle of the woods. There's just a little cabin, and then I had to walk through the woods to go to where I was sleeping. So I was walking to the showers, pitch black, and I didn't have my flashlight with me for some reason. I was feeling so much fear because this is around the time when a lot of my psychic channels were opening up, but I couldn't control them. And I would see spirits and random entities everywhere. And I had no protection. I didn't know anything about energy work. I didn't know I needed to be protected. I didn't know what to do about it. So that's why I was suppressing it with substances. But anyways, when I was feeling all of this fear of me in the woods and I'm seeing all of these spirits and ghosts and entities around me and I feel like I have no protection, I started praying and I just asked for light. And I was like, can you just, quite literally, I asked for a light path. I asked for something. And then for the first time I saw this string of light and I just followed this string. When I say it's a string, it was the thinnest form of light. Everything else around me was darkness. And so since that day, I would constantly and consistently go to that string with every single choice. And I would ask and make sure I'm following that string. Sometimes I found myself deep in the dark and I would have to make my way back to the light path. I can say now, after 6 years of following that string of light, it has transformed into this beautiful, glowing conveyor belt, which is it's moving, it's alive, it's moving me. I'm not having to put so much effort in to follow it and like look for the light in situations. I feel like it's so effortless and I'm moving with it. I feel like there's so much more trust and faith, and sometimes it's felt like a tunnel of light, and right now it feels like this conveyor belt with like a lot of beauty around me, a lot of greenery, abundance. It's beautiful. And all of this truly is my intuition and how much it's grown, my inner wisdom, my ability to tap into the intelligence that's within my own body. I think that it's beautiful that at this point, 6 years later, I can say when you're following the energetic pathway that leads you to your highest potential, everything starts working with you in such a beautiful way. And like it's true ease and effortlessness.
Yeah, no, I like that. And thank you so much for sharing. I think it's when we're taught so much to not follow the light or even believe that the light doesn't exist, that you have to force yourself down a certain path and stay down there where you're not listening to your intuition and you're constantly finding ways to remove the light. It's very hard to get onto that path, to get to that stage of trusting. And like for me, I remember the situation starts very similar. It was very, very dark. There was alcohol, there was drugs, there was sex, there was like no sleep. There was just anything that could take me away from ever listening to anything that was going on. In fact, the talk inside was so dark that I wasn't even able to hear the intuition because I had those negative thought patterns going round and round and round. And I see it so often with like clients and people that we work with, that the intuition is below that. So they think that the inner talk is the negative talk, whereas the inner talk has been created. That inner critic isn't your intuition. The intuition is below that or underneath that. And we've created this pattern, these stories on top. And I was also in a very, very dark place. I actually remember I was at home and must have been after 3 nights of doing drugs in a row and drinking, and you can't sleep. And then you start to create it's the formation of acute psychosis is what it leads down, like short moments of that. And in that moment, the thing for me was my string of light. And I had the deepest realization almost in an instant. It was a really dark moment, and it had to be constant dark moments. And eventually one was so dark that it was like, okay, cool, you now have a choice. And it was, the only way I can explain it now is I am putting blockers on my own light. So I'm literally blocking my own light in multiple different ways. And the only way that I'm going to get to my purpose is by moving these blockers out of the way and getting out of my own way to move towards the light. So it became a journey. The first 6 months of the journey was removing all the substances I was using. And then it was layer by layer, moving the things that I placed in front of myself to ensure that I wouldn't get to my own potential. Yeah, they were the stories that I was telling myself, this isn't possible. And then as these layers peel away, the light gets brighter. Your North Star gets brighter. Your values get brighter. Now, every time a new decision comes about, every time we discuss things openly. However, I go back to my values, I go back to my North Star, I go back to my light and say, okay, cool. Does everything we're discussing align with that? If it does, fantastic. It's on the right path. I'm following that intuition. Then I recheck in with the inner voice. I'm like, cool. Is the values and the conversation we've had, are they aligned? And they are. And if they're not, you have the discussion about them, you talk them through. However, there's that inner knowing, that inner trust. You get to a stage where every single movement in your life runs through that intuition. And it's never wrong. It's like this 100% perfectly guided energy source. Not a map, it's a perfectly guided energy source that will take you directly to where you need to be. However, the thing that stops most people is that it's not that the energy source isn't there. It's that you are getting in your own way of the energy source. The energy source is always there. However, if you stand in your own way, then yeah, of course, you will feel like there's no light, there's no direction, you feel lost, there's no purpose. And that is why the goal is coming back home to yourself and hearing it and listening to it. Maybe the inner voice, the intuition is crying. Maybe he or she is sad. Maybe he or she needs some love. Maybe after the love, the intuition will give you some guidance. It might say, okay, cool, for the next season, you need to go inwards. And I think that recognizing how powerful that voice is a journey in itself. I think, and one of the things that we're going to talk about today is 4 reasons why rejecting your intuition is killing you. And if you can resonate with any of the things that we're going to tell you, or any of the emotions, any of the feelings, any of the actions, I really take this information away and apply it into your life, because it is completely life-changing if you can start listening to your own intuition. Simran, you're proof of listening, how much that can change. I am proof, and all the people we've worked with are also proof, and how little interactions with people that we now go and meet, and it might just be we meet them once, and their whole lives can change just based on the way that we walk through a day, the way that we move, the energy that we give off to the world. When someone else says this is impossible, and we're like, oh my God, trust me? Like, if you listen to it, everything can change. Yeah. And it could just be once, and everything can change. I think that one of the biggest things, and I know that this is something that you're really passionate about, but it's destroying your own spirit and how much that can affect your own intuition and the disconnection that can be created between the two. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that looks like and what that feels like?
Yeah, so the first, destroying your own spirit, this is number one, because I feel like it's the most important reason for why we need to really listen to our own intuition, is because the way that I could describe this the best way, because I love using metaphors and we learn through metaphors. Imagine you are, let's say, in a classroom. I'm imagining most people who are listening to this have been in school in some way, and they're sitting in a classroom, and let's say there's a kid in that class who always tries to talk to you, who always asks you how you're doing, who always maybe is trying to give you advice or whatever it might be, is always just trying to get to know you. And let's say that you just don't think that kid's cool. Maybe you're just like, oh, this one's a little weird. And you ignore this kid. And you just, like, you act like it doesn't exist. You act like you're not hearing it. Or maybe you hear the kid and you're just rejecting it. And you're like, oh, whatever. You don't know anything. Eventually, this kid's going to stop talking to you. This kid's going to stop trying to interact with you, because it's learning that I will be rejected. I am being neglected. I am not being cared for. I'm not a priority. The things I say don't matter. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to stop trying. That's kind of what happens with the intuitive voice, is it shuts down. It won't speak. It it's been rejected, it's been neglected, and this is an aspect of yourself. And if you view the relationship you have with yourself in the same way of, I need to listen to my own voice, I need to respect my own voice, I need to honor my own voice, and I need to show up and actually respond properly. Not just that you listen and then you think that your mind's voice, which is the programmed voice, knows better, but you learn to trust it. So what happens over time when we are just suppressing this part of ourselves, we're chipping away at our spirit. We're quite literally destroying who we are. And what happens when the spirit starts to feel so neglected and suppressed, it actually will leave the body. So when I was 19 years old, and this was also a time where I was really depressed, there was a time when I was at the park and I felt so empty. I felt so lost. I felt so disconnected from myself. And I actually recognized that I was hollow. I was like, my spirit has left my body. And the thing is that the spirit is a living entity, and your physical vessel, your body is your home for the spirit. And when the home is not a safe space, it will leave to protect itself, to sustain itself. Either it sits there and gets chipped away at and destroyed and has to become as small as possible, or it just leaves. And I've seen both happen to my spirit. I've seen both happen to other people's spirits within their own bodies. The thing is, when we allow our spirit to be full in our body, and we allow it to live its full potential, that's when it just blossoms in the most beautiful way, which is why at this point, you and I don't even really need to make mental decisions for a lot of things. Like, we don't have to think about things before we do it. We just know this is the right path. We never have to question. There's no decision paralysis. It's like, this is the direction and this is what I know to be true, because we've built that relationship with our own self. So one of the things I recommend to people to start rebuilding that relationship with yourself is write letters to yourself. That's how I started rebuilding the relationship with me. I would write letters, dear Babaji, comma. And Babaji is what in Sikhism, or in most of India actually, you refer to God as Babaji. So I started writing letters to God, and this was me rebuilding my relationship with God, but also it helped me learn myself. And I would actually apologize to myself. I apologize to God for rejecting, neglecting, suppressing all of me, and also rejecting God's voice. So I would recommend anyone who's listening who wants to rebuild the relationship with themselves to start writing an apology letter first, because that's how, imagine with that kid in the class that you ignored for so long, now you won't suddenly want to talk to that kid. Yeah. That kid's not going to talk to you. No. So how do you rebuild that relationship? You apologize. Or just rebuild any relationship with any person, including yourself. It starts with an apology, acceptance, acknowledgement of what you've done, and then you move forward and you build trust. Yeah. And once you have said, I'm going to start doing this, actually follow through, because then you're destroying trust with self.
Yeah, I love that. I love the apology. I love the apology side of letters and the acceptance. And there's a huge path of, like, first recognizing this is what I've been doing, then being able to communicate that, and then also being able to action. I'm actually sorry. Like, the amount of times people talk about sorry is just words, and it is, until there's an action that comes with it, and being able to do that for your own soul. And then there's something else that I do afterwards, and I wonder if it's something that you also explore. In fact, I already know it's something that you explored, but I wonder if it's something that you advise for this particular thing. So I moved from apology letters to love letters, to like self-love letters. And they're amazing. They're so much fun. So like, you go from saying, oh my God, I really let you down. And I did. Like, this isn't a lie. Like, I genuinely let you down. I didn't listen to you for this amount of time. I hurt you for this amount of time. And then as you build up that trust, the same in your relationships, any relationships in your life. If you're not listening to, if you're not respecting, if you're not holding space for them, if you're not creating action around giving them the space that they need, then you get distant, you get resentment, you lose each other. And then as that process goes the other way and you apologize and you show action off the back of it, and you recognize the role that you played and the role that you would like someone else to play, and you create that space, it becomes an interweaving. Then you move into love and you start showing love and you start backing it up with action regularly. We were talking about this last week when relationships fall apart. And then we went on to like pornography, and we spoke about true love and marriage. And a lot of that stops when the intention stops. And bringing that intention back with, here is a love letter to myself. Let me show you let me share with you just how much I love you. Going from a place of pain, sorry, resentment to, oh my God, you're a human. You're the body that's carrying my soul, and then you are the soul, and you're eternal. And thank you so much for being here. Do you know, I love all these things about you. And it's interesting, back then I wrote the letters to be a lot more extreme, not extreme, a lot more intense. And now the letters have moved into different things such as mirror work, such as energetic work, where when you can start to hear your inner voice, you can just have a conversation. The amount of times that I pass a mirror and I'm like, oh my God, this guy. And it sounds superficial, but I'm talking to my soul. I'm not going in and saying, oh my God, you're a sexy motherfucker. I'm going in and it's to my soul. You're a beautiful human being. The things that you've come through are massive. And you deserve that as a human being. Every single human being that is listening to this, every single soul that is listening to this deserves that talk. Now, to stop us relying on other people for that talk, it starts with ourselves. And that was something that links back to relationships. So do you think that moving from apology letters to love letters is like a cool transition?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And the feeling is so different.
Yeah.
I mean, the apology letters felt so heavy, and I cried through most of them.
Yeah.
The love letters, I mean, I'm still crying, but it's like the tears of gratitude, the fullness, the lightness that comes with it. And what I've started to do is write love letters to myself to read every January.
Yeah.
I actually have to go back and read my previous one.
Yeah.
And actually,
Exactly.
I think I need to write a new one.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. And it's February right now. So yeah, I've been writing love letters to myself for a few years now, a couple years. And it started out being so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was so uncomfortable expressing I was just like, this is so icky. But now I'm like, I get excited, but also sometimes I feel like I don't need to write a formal one.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just in my journal. It could also be like with energy work, even the conversation. Like I had a conversation with myself sitting right here yesterday on your floor after my first almost 7 mile run.
Let's go. That's amazing. Well done.
And this is when you were feeding the dog peanut butter.
Yeah.
And I was sitting here and I just had like a very loving conversation with myself and just celebrated what I just did. And it doesn't need to be like a whole formal thing or like last minutes. It was like 20 seconds and it felt beautiful.
I think something that would be really, really amazing is between now and next week, we give an example. It doesn't have to be a long one.
Okay.
Maybe 1 minute of a love letter.
And share it publicly?
We share it publicly.
Okay.
Yeah, we share it publicly next week. Yeah, I think it'll be really cool.
Okay. We could freestyle it also.
Yeah, we can freestyle it also.
I think let's freestyle it.
We'll freestyle it next week.
Okay.
All right, cool, I'm ready.
Yay.
So what would happen if we not listening to your intuition destroys your spirit? Once the apology letters and the love letters and they become a continuous practice of talking to yourself in that way, what then happens?
It becomes normal. It becomes habitual. It becomes your inner voice, actually. That becomes how you speak to yourself with that much love rather than I fucking hate myself, I'm so ugly.
Yeah.
It becomes I fucking love myself, I'm so sexy, I'm beautiful.
Sexy.
It becomes normal and like your atmosphere changes. You actually start to be more beautiful.
Yeah.
You start to look different. You carry yourself differently. It doesn't matter how many times someone compliments you because you're like, okay, I know. Yeah. But which is like, yeah, maybe that's cocky, but it's like truly I know because I say it to myself every day, right? Yeah. And like even like you don't need the validation of your characteristics or who you are or how you speak or how you think, any of it. No. Because your self-value is built so deep internally. It's like the strongest pillar.
I think that's one of the reasons why people struggle so much with like self-confidence, and they can even see it as like arrogance. And people can see the amount of people that say to me, you're arrogant. And I'm like, do you know, if you had felt the pain that I used to be in, and you could feel that the journey that I've been on from that pain to where I am right now, it's you're loving yourself.
You can I can energetically see the difference of arrogance, cockiness, and someone who truly loves themselves and is speaking on that love. Yeah. It's so clear. Yeah. When someone is speaking from a space of lack and feeling like they have to say something to make it true and make someone else believe it, versus when they're like, I truly believe this and this is just a fact. And if that makes you uncomfortable, whose problem is that? Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things is like self-love and destroying your spirit is such a big thing that most people find that uncomfortable because they're not doing it for themselves. Yeah. So it becomes a really uncomfortable conversation. It becomes, you become woo-woo. You become weird because you have the ability, the confidence to walk through a day and just be like, I've found that discomfort that true self-love brings sometimes to other people who don't feel that for themselves, it makes them want to break you down. It makes them say things to chip away at you because that's what's happening internally within themselves. And what is the best way that you deal with that when you feel that happening?
When I feel other people are projecting onto me, it's really interesting because I'm going to have to probably go back a little bit of time, because now it just flies past. I don't even recognize it's happening, because I think once you're at a stage where you're regularly showing yourself a certain level of love, and the way that you speak to yourself is at a certain level, they just bounce off. Those things don't even really come towards you. And actually, the more that I'm finding is the more intuitive that I am, the more that I'm focusing on myself. What comes towards me aligns with me. And actually, what doesn't fit there is pretty much immediately repelled. It will feel uncomfortable for them to be in my life, and it will feel uncomfortable for me to be in their life. So you get very clear on your boundaries. And I think that's one of the biggest things post starting to listen to your intuition, and not just listen to it, but action on it, is you create such a beautiful bond with your inner talk, your inner voice, your soul, your life soul, that your boundaries are insane. They become fierce, and they become fierce to the extent that people will find that uncomfortable. That you're setting the boundaries, you're just like, you know what, this is a boundary for me. Like the amount of times that I speak to a lot of my clients, and these are usually men that are imbalanced in their masculine and feminine energy, and they're moving from one side to the other. They can't actually be able to create boundaries because they're too afraid of what is going to happen to someone else. Whereas they're happy self-sabotaging themselves or creating pain to themselves to try and cover up, like to make someone else happy. And when you love yourself enough, the boundaries that you set are fierce. And the priority is that you feel at your best, which will then allow you to go and give your best to other people.
Right. So what you're describing sounds a lot like alignment, which is leading us into number 2, which is how burnout and misalignment is killing your intuition. So could you define those two and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think burnout and misalignment, they're very closely linked. And one of the biggest issues at the moment in the Western world, in any corporate world, any working environment, whether it's you work in a supermarket, in a petrol station, whether you work in a hospital, you work as a banker, the story is the same. And that is that burnout is okay. I'm paying you. Burnout is okay, which to me is a fucking joke. And it actually emotionally makes me very upset with the world that people's value has been put on their paycheck, or they're in such a survival state that they feel like that is their only option. Now, you and I know that burnout and misalignment is created, unfortunately, from ourselves. Yeah, those are situations that we create. Those are stories that we've been either told from the outside world and we haven't taken responsibility for them, or they're stories that we're telling ourselves and we've made ourselves smaller and smaller, which is not listening to your spirit, right? So from a definition perspective, I would say that burnout comes from misalignment. However, let me give you I've split it up into physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Okay, so burnout is a state of deep exhaustion that affects multiple dimensions. Let me give you the definition that I've done. I've split them up into areas. So I've split them up to physically, emotionally, spiritually. Burnout is a state of deep exhaustion that affects multiple dimensions of your life: physical, emotional, and spiritual, leading to a complete depletion of energy, motivation, and resilience. Now, many people feel this, but what do the differences feel like? So physically, you'll feel like chronic fatigue, a weakened immune system, insomnia, headaches, muscle tension, feeling drained even after rest. So people don't really know how to switch off. Their bodies never get to that stage. Now, this is something we see all of the time, especially in like the corporate worlds. Now, emotionally, it feels numb. You feel like you're not actually feeling anything, or you don't have the capacity to feel the spectrum of emotions. So this is when we get to the stage of burnout. Now, most people feel this when they're not even at burnout, because it's become a survival mechanism to get them through not listening to their inner talk. Increased irritability, cynicism, detachment, loss of passion, and a feeling of emptiness, like you brought up yourself from how you used to feel. Now, spiritually, you have a loss of purpose. You feel a disconnection from your own meaning. You're questioning your own path and feeling unfulfilled despite any achievements that you might be doing. Now, burnout, I'm explaining to you exactly how it feels like. Now, there will be people that will be able to resonate with how those things feel. However, burnout comes directly from misalignment. So burnout comes from misalignment. Now, what does misalignment mean? If we just think about the actual word itself, you are not aligned with where you want to be going, or you're not aligned with who you truly are, or you're not aligned with what that inner voice is saying. Maybe when you were younger, you had big dreams and you decided to go down a different path because your parents said you should become a pharmacist, a banker, a lawyer. The pressure was there from the family, or the pressure was there from you, from society, that you need to earn more money and you need to become this. And you felt that, you've gone down that path. I felt that. I didn't go down the path that the family wanted me to, but I felt like I had to go and work in London. I had to go and work in a certain area to create a certain amount of money, whereas now I'm following my intuition and making more money than I've ever made, with the option to make even more. Whereas most people are chasing having negative abundance rather than positive abundance. What I mean by that is you're chasing more, but you have to follow the rules to get more. You don't just get to make more. Misalignment occurs when your thoughts, actions, and environment are not in sync with your true self, leading to resistance, confusion, and discomfort across multiple levels. We've spoken about already, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and logically. Physically, you get tension in the body. You've already spoken about this. When you're not listening to your own spirit, you create inner tension. In fact, you create stories, you create stress, you create restlessness. You have that feeling of always being off and not centered and not calm. There's no light to follow. In fact, there could just feel like this darkness. You feel tight, you feel tense. Emotionally, there's always an inner conflict going on. You feel like you can't find your center. You can't even find what's going to take you to your center. You're constantly moving from the paradoxes of emotions. So you won't go from like happy to maybe slightly less happy to okay to sad. You'll go from happy directly to sad. And then you'll go from anger directly to I want to get high. And then you'll go from feeling high to really low. And there's no peacefulness, there's no center, there's no balance. And that is misalignment. That is what misalignment feels like, because you can't be calm inside your own. Another thing that comes massively is feeling uninspired and disconnected from who you are and your day-to-day goings. Like, I'm very excited to wake up every single day. I'm doing some really hard things at the moment. And like, you came on that run yesterday, I loved it. It was so nice to have you there. And at the same time, I know that the things that I'm going through right now are very, very difficult. Do I ever feel burnt out or misaligned? Not at all, because I know I'm completely on my path to do that. And that's one of the things from alignment, is that you can work 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times harder than you ever worked when you were misaligned, and you feel great. You feel amazing, because actually you will create a life where you can be optimized, rather than creating a life where you feel so misaligned with yourself that your energy levels drop, your bucket feels empty, you're never filling up your own cup, and you're doing something that doesn't follow your purpose. So the importance of that is huge. Now, spiritually, there's a huge one, and this is something that I really felt was feeling lost, having no inner peace, and really struggling with fighting with my inner self, rather than going searching for what is going to bring me peace so I can listen to my inner self. Now, I said it at the beginning, the most important thing to me was being able to come to complete stillness so I could actually listen to like inner Preet. And actually inner Preet was, when I first got to that stage, this was at like 26. At 26, when I first started to listen to my intuition properly, I realized he was 5 years old. He was 5 years old. The inner talk hadn't grown from 5 years, because something so huge had happened at 5. And that inner talk, and you're not old enough to listen to yourself at 5 years old, but once you got that awareness, I was using so many things to distract that inner pain, that sadness from that little boy, that actually I ended up doing many things that were out of alignment. And then when I started listening, I realized that I had to take all that stuff away and just listen to him and cry with him and release the pain and understand what I've been doing all of these years that took me away from that, which was really, really sad. And then obviously logically, from a pain from misalignment looks like you really want to do this stuff and you're doing something completely different, and it feels like shit. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but it feels like shit. And you might have had dreams when you were younger, or you might have wanted to really do something in the world, and there might be little things that you do in your life. Like, a lot of people, they live their purpose in small snippets because they feel like they can't give their whole life to that. They can't follow that. I can promise you, every single person listening right now, if you follow your purpose, like your genuine purpose, the thing that you're here to do, you will make more than enough money from it. You will create such a beautiful life. You'll be full of energy. You'll be thriving. You'll feel fucking great all of the time. Whereas if you move to misalignment, that is what often leads to burnout. And then also missing all of these signs, or finding things that can get in your way, like marijuana, alcohol, being friends with people that aren't aligned with your future vision or the person that you need to become, putting yourself in environments that don't allow you to be your best or thrive at your best, be your healthiest physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, then you will lead to burnout. And all of this stuff takes you away from listening to your own intuition. Because what we do instead is we react on all of this stuff. We feel like I go for one like spa day a month, and that's in reaction to the fact that my job is so stressful. I don't like being who I am. I live for the weekend, so when I get to the weekend, I go out for cocktails and shots and stuff to get away from the life that I live, so I can start work again on Monday. How ridiculous does that lifestyle sound? I'm going to use my Sunday to recover from my hangover on Saturday and Friday, so I can then start the work that I'm doing again on a Monday that I don't feel aligned with, that I can fill up my own bank account, and then go through the same loop over and over again. Like, it doesn't make sense.
The limiting belief I already know most people are having when you say that sentence is about money, which is survival. Money is food, water, shelter. And yes, money is important because that's how we survive.
Yeah.
The limiting belief there, I can tell you automatically right now, just listening to the thoughts of whoever's listening, is you can make money doing anything in this world, because money is energy. It is flowing like water. And when you break through this cycle of I have to work for someone, or I need job security, or I need to hoard this money in my savings account in order to feel valuable, to feel safe, move through this feeling of safety, allow yourself to feel safe in your own body, take it slow. No one's saying quit your job with no plans. Maybe I did that actually. It worked out great.
Well, actually, we both did that. But like, we do have some advice off the back of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, please continue.
So whatever it is, your intuition will actually guide you in such a way that you'll know what to do. You don't always need to know what's around the corner. If you're listening to this and you haven't heard episode 3 yet,
just listen to them all.
Yeah, go listen to them all. But episode 3, we go through feeling yes and no in the body. It's a guided practice at some point towards the end. So we talk about how you will find alignment. You will know what path is right for you when it feels like a full body yes. So with everything you described, Preet, I loved all of it. And I wholeheartedly agree with all of it. And the way that the listeners can ensure that they are finding alignment in themselves is only do the things that feel like a full body yes. If any part of you, even 0.005% of you is saying no, don't do it.
No, I completely agree. And one of the big things is it's going to take an initial huge amount of courage to actually do this. And actually, one of the things that I say, one of the metaphors that I use, and it sounds a little bit ridiculous, you need like kicking off a cliff. There's water at the bottom, you'll swim. Everything's fine down there.
Just jump.
You need to jump or I'll kick you. Like, and if I don't kick you, Simran will kick you. But just jump. And it is going to take a lot of courage. However, once you leave that cliff, at the bottom, you're going to make it. And now you might have to make it when you get to the bottom. You've been through such a big jump that you might need to be the otter that floats down the water. Or you might get down there and you're like, I can swim. I'm great at swimming. Oh my God, let me swim. You might become the next Michael Phelps, but you won't know unless you jump. You're still just a no one at the top. Whereas when you jump, you'll find out who you're going to be, and it's going to take you a lot of courage to do that. Now, part of the process, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, is you need to understand the core values that allow you to follow your light. And those core values you will know because when you think about them, when you create your vision, when you think about the kind of life that you want to create, they will bring you a sense of internal peace when you think about them. There'll be no internal feeling of, oh my God, should I do this? Or should I do this? Is this the right path for me? Should I be going in this direction? For example, one of my leading values in life is freedom. Okay, so one of the most important values to me is freedom. And if there's any decision that's being made in business, in lifestyle, friendships, in relationships, absolutely anything, I will ask it. That's one of my core values. Does it allow me to continue living a life in a free way? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, fantastic, I go on to the next value. And the next value is abundance. Okay, cool. Does it allow me to do all of these things and it's abundant? Yes. Amazing. Move on to the third. I have between 4 or 6, depending on the vision that I'm creating at that time. And that's like a logical way of creating that. Now, one of the things that this process can be really difficult for people and people can find it really uncomfortable. How do I move out of burnout? How do I move out of misalignment when I've been there all of my life? And one of the things that I'm doing right now is I've launched a masterclass that literally helps you gain the clarity that you need. So the first thing that I will do is give you the awareness around where you are in life right now. So if you recognize any of the feelings that you've been feeling, any of the things that we've spoken about, whether it's the feeling lost, the feeling burnout, the energy levels drop, or sometimes you're feeling great and then other times you're feeling absolutely terrible. Any of the things that we've spoken about, the first thing that we do is I'm going to teach you a tool to create the awareness of your life, to look around the whole life, to recognize if any of these patterns are present. And then the next thing that we do is I'll give you another tool that will allow you to start removing those things. So when we're telling you that it takes a lot of courage, with this journey, with this process, with this masterclass, I'll educate you a way where it doesn't feel like you're being kicked off a cliff. You don't need all that courage. Instead, we do it in a drip feed method where we slowly remove things to create space for alignment that is needed. So then we'll start creating, I'll give you tools to create aligned action. So first we remove things, then we start placing the new things that are aligned with our values. And then the final thing is taking action, which we spoke about at the beginning. How important it is to apologize to yourself and feel it and cry with it. And then how important it is to love yourself, but then not just love yourself, but actually turn up and show action. So in this masterclass that I'm launching on next week, Thursday, February the 20th, it is called Finding Your Purpose. And we're going to go through 3 big things: awareness, alignment, and activation. And I'm going to give you 3 tasks, 3 tools that will allow you to apply that directly into your life, to be able to start listening to your intuition and taking action on it to move forwards. So what that'll give you is a deeper clarity of your own vision. It will give you way more energy. You'll feel way more balanced, and the feelings of burnout, misalignment, and not listening to your inner self will become something of the past. So you can start taking action on the aligned life that you're meant to be living moving forwards.
Amazing. That sounds like an amazing masterclass.
Really,
we'll make sure the link for that is in the description. So
yes.
Anyone, if that sounds, it sounds amazing. If you're feeling called to join, please click the link in the description and all the details will be there.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a vibe. I appreciate that.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're welcome as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe I'll check it out. Yeah, I'll be there.
You can sit next to me.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Amazing. So we've been through number 1, which is destroying your spirit and what that looks like in action. And then we've been through burnout and misalignment. Now, number 3 is keeping you shackled, or what keeps you shackled. And I would love for you to explain a little bit more what the difference is between number 1 and 2 and what keeps you shackled feels like. What is shackled? What do you mean by that?
Okay, I love this.
For me, it sounds like torture.
It is torture.
Okay, cool, good.
So what are we actually being shackled by, and what is being shackled? I would love to actually talk about what this looks like. The part of ourselves that we are shackling is absolutely our spirit. The part of ourselves that is doing the shackling is our fear, our guilt, our shame, our limiting beliefs, our conditioning, maybe our parents' thoughts and feelings about us, maybe our teachers and what they said to us, maybe your partner's existence in itself in your life, maybe your friends, maybe the habits that you have. Any aspect of who you are can shackle you. And the main thing here that is important that I want to talk about is the limiting beliefs and also the importance of emotional alchemy. And when you described how courage is the most important thing, how do we actually gather enough courage to move past fear, to move past the limiting beliefs, to move past our conditioning? It takes actually transforming the emotions in our body and also learning how to reprogram how we view ourselves in the world. And I've actually methodized this so well and turned it into a group coaching program that's doing incredible, and I'm seeing beautiful results for women. And it is only for women, so for the guys listening who are interested.
Okay, we can create one for men.
Maybe. Hopefully.
I'll create one for men.
Okay, great.
We're not leaving people out here.
Yeah, we're not leaving people out. Yeah, so it's a beautiful community of just women who we go through about a 4-month-long process. The first step is teaching women how to reprogram their minds. And I literally teach you how it's all about subconscious reprogramming. How do you gain control over your thoughts, your voice, the way you speak to yourself? How do you actually actively reprogram yourself in your day-to-day life? How do we eliminate the limiting beliefs that have been sitting in your body, that have been passed down to you, either from your family, your friends, teachers, whatever it might be? This is what I call the voice of the mind. So we're harnessing the voice of the mind. Step 2 in month 2 is harnessing the voice of the body. And this is quite literally the process of learning the communication our body has with us. This is where you learn emotional alchemy, energy work, processing the deep-rooted trauma in the body, and truly learning how to tap into the intelligence that the body communicates with us. Then step 3 is spiritual surrender, which is what I call the voice of the spirit, or the voice of the soul. And this is us learning how to truly and deeply connect with our intuition, our spirit, the voice of God, the voice of the universe, the energy around us, and how do we begin working with it to fully transform the life that you have and have you living on your highest life path. So all of this is in the group coaching space, which is open for admissions now. The link will be in the description.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that, and like your program sounds amazing.
It is amazing.
I feel like you should open it up for one though.
Okay, maybe we can do that together.
Yeah, we can do that together. Maybe we can create one that is for the people.
Yeah, just like a group, just community for everyone.
Yeah, community for everyone, and we will create specific coaching for the men and women in the group. So there'll be things that people do together. And then when the work needs to be separate, we can give them separate work.
I would also love for that to be community funded.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Would be beautiful.
Yeah, that would be really special. Let's check that out there.
Yeah.
Manifest.
Yeah, we're doing it.
It's already good. I feel it.
Okay, let's lock it in.
Yeah. Locked. But before we move on from that, and I love the idea of program, like it sounds, I already know how beneficial it is from watching the way clients have moved through it and the roles that they play. Can you just take us back a little bit? And I know that you covered the limiting beliefs and the emotions around it, but can you just give us a little bit more of what the shackled feels like? Mm. So for example, if you've been there, I know I've been there, but whether you've been there, if someone was right in the shackled moment right now, what does that actually feel like?
It feels like you have to be so small in order to survive. It feels like there's no hope, there's no light. It feels like everything is out of your control, but you're trying to grasp control anywhere you can. It feels hopeless. It's really painful. And yeah, it's like I can imagine that in a shackled body, the mind goes wild. And distraction is necessary. And this is why I'm honestly very forgiving of people who are struggling in life. Very, like, maybe they're homeless, they are, whatever they've gone through, I don't know. But I'm very forgiving of people using drugs to escape their reality, because I know what it felt like to be in a shackled space and just want to escape. Yeah. And yes, drugs gave that escape. Now, can we do better than that? Absolutely. But the forgiveness of this person's really suffering, and all they have is the world in their own mind to escape it, because their body is stuck, their spirit is stuck. Yeah. So yeah, that's what shackled feels like. Okay. And that's actually what led me to creating my first company, which is called The Liberated Being. The most important value within this company is freedom. And when I imagine a being that is liberated, liberation of the mind, liberation of the body, liberation of the spirit, and financial liberation. And I find that when a human being has liberated all 4 of these aspects of themselves, this is when a human is truly free in this world. This is when a spirit is truly at its fullest, its most maximum beautiful potential. So that's the goal with everything I do, is whether we're working on all 4 or just one to start with, everything is about liberation of self. Yeah,
that's so interesting. Mine's called the limitless method.
Really?
Yeah, because all those areas of people's lives where they've created limitations, or if there's an imbalance in their life, the potential is limitless moving forward. So we've got liberated and limitless moving.
Beautiful.
Crazy.
Aligned.
Things are going. Things are flying.
So I think we've done a good job of covering number 3.
Yeah.
Ready to move on to number 4, which is opportunity blindness. I am so intrigued to know more about this. Can you please share?
Yeah, of course. Now, from a really simple perspective, opportunity blindness is when you're in misalignment with yourself, so you're not aligned with your greater self, your higher self, and you're not listening to your intuition, you miss things. It's really, really simple. You don't even see them. You're so blind to them. You're so blind to opportunities in business. You're so blind to opportunities to make money. You're so blind to opportunities of love. You're so blind to opportunities of feeling peaceful, feeling calm, feeling aligned around you. You don't eat well. You're in poor environments. You put yourself in the poor environments. Don't get me wrong, all the healthy stuff is there. Everywhere you go. Like, take nutrition as an example. The amount of people that eat healthy and they'll tell you that they don't have the option, and that's the story that they're telling themselves. That's being shackled. And the missed opportunities, if we're talking about it from an intuitive perspective, if you are ignoring your intuition, you block opportunities. You don't even have access to them. Your body won't even allow you to be aligned with them. In fact, you repel them. Now, this is when people say, well, it's just not possible. Of course it's not possible. You're not even aligned with your own self. Why would other things come towards you? So when we operate from a place of like limiting beliefs, fear and doubt, like you were explaining, when you are shackled and you stay in being shackled, the opportunities don't come towards you. Now, you literally create a space where you become blind and you won't have access to them. You won't be able to see them, and you'll feel your life is this small and it's going to stay that small. And that is the space that you stay in at all times. Now, opportunity blindness comes from all of those layers of not listening to your intuition. Now, as you were saying, when you're shackled, it takes a lot of courage, and creating that emotional power to move through that isn't something that you're just going to do once and it's never going to happen again. There's a scale, and if 99 times out of 100 you haven't listened to yourself and you have once, it's not going to suddenly just flip the other way around the scale. You need to create balance in that scale. And now there might be 99 times, and then gradually, as you make those decisions to choose yourself and you follow your intuition, eventually the scale will tip. Now, when the scale tips, the opportunities start to come towards you. However, if we talk about it from a logical perspective, is when you create limiting beliefs, when you have limiting beliefs, you miss things completely, right? Now, every no to your gut feeling is a closed door to something greater. Now, we know that because the amount of times that we don't listen to our intuition and it puts us into a worse situation. Whereas when we do listen to our intuition, it puts us into a great situation. So every no to your intuition, not listening to it, puts you into a place of misalignment. And then every time you do listen to your intuition and you say yes and you listen to that voice and you trust it, even if it doesn't make sense and you trust it, it takes you closer towards something that you do want. It leads you to a place of, every time you say yes and you listen, an increased place of self-trust, an increased place of self-confidence, and an increased place of self-awareness, which then allows you to start creating the energy to start attracting the things that you want. However, if you don't listen, you go to this place of where you miss opportunities. Now, if you do listen to your intuition, you start becoming a magnetic to opportunities that you didn't even think existed. Now, this is literally the term that people use as the law of attraction. Yeah, you start saying yes, and you start creating your vision boards where you're creating these ideas, and then you move out of your own way and you start moving towards those things. You're living in alignment with your values that are needed. Now, the law of attraction doesn't work without the law of action. So don't go away and think that, oh, I'm imagining it, it's going to come true. Like, imagining it aligned with the emotional work, as you stated, and how important that is. And then also taking regular action aligned with your values and your intuition is what's going to take you closer to where you want to be. However, if you don't listen, you're going to end up in situations where you repel things. You're going to pull things towards you that aren't aligned with you. In fact, you're going to be open to every negative thing in this world if you're not living aligned with who you are. And that might be the drugs, that might be the alcohol, that might be divorce, that might be losing your children, that might be getting overweight, that might be getting underweight. Yeah, but it's leading to misalignment. That might be depression. Yeah, and it might be the suicidal thoughts. It might be the self-pain, the self-sabotage. And that is the path that you lead down if you do not listen to your own intuition. However, every time you say yes, and the moment that you can start to tip those scales, you will become so magnetic to creating everything you need and receiving every tool that is required to make your vision reality.
Yeah, beautiful. That was very well said.
Thank you. I think that one of the most important things that we both know is that the journey needs to be listening to your own intuition. And the first part of that journey is the journey of apologizing. Mm-hmm. I didn't listen to you. And I missed so many things that you felt, and I didn't hold space for you. Now that is going to change, and I'm going to start listening to you, and then you'll start moving out of misalignment, out of burnout, out of the feeling of that life just doesn't make sense. I can't even make decisions. Things aren't coming towards me. And by listening to your intuition, that will completely change. Yeah. If you could give one piece of advice to people to start this journey of not listening to your intuition and start moving towards your intuition, what is the first thing that people need to do to start this process off?
I'm going to give everyone homework
Okay.
who is listening to this.
Can I do the homework too?
Yeah, you can do the homework
Okay.
too. So I'm going to give everyone homework
Okay.
who listened to this and felt that they were out of misalignment, felt that they were shackled, felt that they're being ruled by their limiting beliefs, and may also feel burnt out. Your homework is to write yourself an apology letter for the reasons why you haven't showed up. I want you to acknowledge what it is that you did that was harmful to you, why you didn't show up for yourself, and make the commitment to show up differently after you apologize. That's a full, complete apology, actually. So if you guys aren't doing that already when you apologize, make sure you start doing that. And then you need to follow through and actually make sure you show up differently. Otherwise, you're disrespecting self. You're destroying trust. Yeah, make sure you follow through with the action. And once you do that, keep that apology letter. Come back to it when you need it. And then start writing yourself love letters.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. And I'm excited for sharing our letters next week. However, I've got something to add to the homework, if it's okay.
Of course.
What I would like you guys to do, once you have done the first bit, once you've done the apology letter, and you have created the actions that you're going to do around that, send us a message on at the Confessions of a Black Sheep Instagram, which is at Confessions of a Black Sheep _. And the extra bit of homework is, in return, I'm going to send you a tool that I give to all of my clients, and that is a contract to yourself. And it's the contract of the way that you're going to turn up post apology letter. And I'll send that to you, and you can alter it in whatever way that you need to, and you'll date it and sign it for that. So that is something that you'll keep with yourself. When I initially did this right at the beginning, this was framed. This was 5 days after I stopped doing all the drugs, the alcohol, went completely sober. And that initial process led to a 2.5 year deep, intense internal work, which allowed me to create this beautiful life. Now, you don't even need to do the 2.5 years. I needed to because of the space I was in. However, having that contract there is something that you see all of the time, and it's framed and it's beautiful, and you wrote it and you signed it, you dated it, is a beautiful subconscious way of allowing this journey to begin for you to start listening to your inner self.
Beautiful. I'm actually going to DM
Are you?
you for that, because I would love that.
That's okay.
For me to
Okay.
maybe like recontract with myself.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, sweet. This was great.
Yeah, I loved it.
This was our first in-person episode.
Yeah, it was. And
I
there's
feel
many more to come.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Anything else that you want to share before we head off?
No, but please do follow Simran on Instagram at FlySimranFly. The things that she's posted on Instagram and on her YouTube, and she continues to do so. And I love the way that she shows up online. It's bringing a really beautiful energy at all times. So please do follow her. You're going to love it.
I would honestly recommend my YouTube because it's like really popping off right now
Is
versus Instagram's like just crusty.
Yeah, fair.
It's fine. Anyways,
Yeah.
find me on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
And also at Life with Preetam. Please go follow Preetam on Instagram. And you're getting into YouTube soon, right?
Yeah, hold me
Because
accountable.
we need you in long form. We need more than 30 seconds of you.
That's cool. Hold me accountable. The first video will be up by next week.
Okay, is it going to be at Life with Preetam?
At Life with Preetam.
Okay, at Life with Preetam on all platforms.
Yeah.
And we're holding him to his commitment to
Yeah.
show up on YouTube.
First video. Let's go.
Beautiful. Let's do it. All right. Thanks for listening.
ready.
Talk to you soon.